Hello everyone, welcome to Physics online classes for class 12 students. Let us continue chapter 6 Electromagnetic Induction. Today we are going to study about eddy currents. Yes, in the previous class we studied energy consideration in motional EMF. We derived induced current, magnetic force experienced by the conductor, power is required to push the conductor, and power dissipated as heat energy. So these expressions we already studied in the previous class. Now let us study about eddy currents in today's session. Yes, first we have to know what is meant by eddy. Eddy means circulation, whirlpool. Here, whatever the induced EMF takes place in the coil, it is always moving in a circular path. So, we are going to call it as eddy current. Eddy means circular or whirlpool. For example, when we throw a stone into the water, we can see a gravity wave is formed on that water surface. So, likewise, here, when magnetic field changes, so we already studied induced EMF takes place, and that induced EMF is moving in a circular path. So we are going to call it as eddy current. And also you can remember Faraday's laws, and also we studied Lenz's law. Faraday's first law gives how to produce or how to induce EMF. Faraday's second law gives how much induced EMF takes place in the circuit. Lenz's law gives in which direction induced EMF takes place, and this eddy current gives in which path the induced EMF takes place. These 4 points you have to remember. Faraday's first law gives how to induce EMF. Second law gives how much induced EMF takes place. Lenz's law gives direction of induced EMF, and this eddy current gives path of induced EMF. So whatever induced EMF takes place in the conductor, it is in a circular path. So we are going to call it as eddy current. Yes, first we can observe the definition of eddy currents. The circulating currents produced in a metal block when placed in a changing magnetic field or when it is moved in a uniform magnetic field, and they are called eddy currents. Yes, what are eddy currents? These are circulating currents, and these currents produced in metal block. When this circulating current is produced in metal block, when that metal block is placed in changing magnetic field or when that metal block is moving in uniform magnetic field. Either metal block should have certain velocity or that magnetic field should changes. So, whatever the current is produced in that metal block, it is in a circulating path or it is in a circular path. So, that current we are going to call it as eddy current, because the meaning of eddy of water, eddies, that means circulating, circular path, whirlpool. Is it clear? Yes, what is eddy current? These are the circulating currents produced in metal block when placed in a changing magnetic field or when it is moving in a uniform magnetic field, then we can call it as eddy currents. Yes, see here, if I am going to take this metal block, and when this metal block is placed in changing magnetic field, then observe here, this metal block contains a large number of free electrons, and these free electrons in that metal block experiences force, right? So these forces acting on these free electron, and that cause them to move in a closed circular path inside the block, right? So this electron moving in a closed path, it is equivalent to current carrying loop. Is it clear? Thus, induced currents are generated in the metal block. Such circulating currents distributed throughout the body of this conducting block. So, we are going to call them as eddy currents. Remember, the eddy currents are also called as Foucault current. See here, it has one more name. Eddy current is also called as Foucault current because These eddy currents were first detected by the scientist Foucault. So we are going to call it as a Foucault current. Is it clear? So eddy current or Foucault current, that means this is a circulating current produced in metal block when placed in changing magnetic field. What happens here? When that metal block is placed in changing magnetic field, free electrons present in that block experiences force. Because of this force, it causes the free electrons to move in a circulating path that produces induced EMF. Is it clear? Yes, what are eddy currents? The circulating currents produced in metal block when placed in a changing magnetic field or when it is moving in a uniform magnetic field, and they are called eddy currents. Eddy currents are also called as Foucault current because it was discovered by the scientist Foucault. Right? Now, experiment to demonstrate production of eddy current. See here, I am going to demonstrate an experiment how to produce eddy current. First, you can observe this picture, picture 1. We are going to consider a metal plate. So, this is a metal plate. This metal plate is hanged here with the help of a stand, and this metal plate is allowed to swing between two strong magnets. This metal plate is kept in between two strong magnets. So you can observe this is a magnet, North Pole, and here we considered another magnet with South Pole. So here the experimental setup, what it consists? It consists of metal plate, and this metal plate is free to swing between two strong magnets. When this metal plate is allowed to swing between these strong magnets, the magnetic flux linked with this plate keep on changing because the magnets are surrounded by magnetic field. When this metal block or metal plate is swinging between these two strong magnets, then magnetic flux linked with this metal plate keeps on changing. So when it moves in and out, swinging, it is free to oscillate. So when that metal plate comes in or when it goes out of the region between these magnetic poles, what happens? We can study in detail. So we considered a metal plate, and this metal plate is free to oscillate between two strong magnets. Now, observe here. When this metal plate enters magnetic field, that means this metal plate is swinging. When this swinging plate enters the magnetic field, magnetic flux linked with that metal plate changes, then eddy current is induced. Anyhow, induced EMF takes place in the metal plate, and that induced EMF is moving in an anti-clockwise direction. Remember, dear students, we already studied in Lenz's law. When that metal plate comes near the magnet, here it is swinging. That metal plate is swinging. When it enters that magnetic field, magnetic flux linked with that plate changes. Induced EMF takes place. That means eddy current is produced because it is in a circular path and it is moving in a anti-clockwise direction. And this induced current generates magnetic field, and this magnetic field opposes magnetic field due to magnet. See here, we considered a metal plate. This is oscillating. When that metal plate enters this strong magnetic region, means magnetic field. So magnetic flux linked with the metal plate changes. Induced EMF takes place, electric current is produced, and now that current is moving in anti-clockwise direction. When the current is induced in this metal plate, we know that electric current is surrounded by electric field as well as magnetic field. Now you can observe there are two magnetic fields here. The first magnetic field is generated by magnets, strong magnets. The second magnetic field is produced by induced EMF. So, the first magnetic field is surrounded by magnet, second magnetic field is surrounded by metal plate. Because electric current is induced in the metal plate, that current is also surrounded by magnetic field. Now, magnetic field of metal plate, magnetic field of magnet, so they are in the opposite direction. Therefore, induced current generates magnetic field and this magnetic field opposes magnetic field due to magnet. Anyhow, opposition occurs. Is it clear? Then second point. When this swinging plate leaves the magnetic field, when it goes out of this magnetic field, again eddy current is induced in this metal plate, but that induced current takes place in clockwise direction. Because it is leaving that magnetic field, it is moving away from that magnetic field. And this induced current generates magnetic field. Because here the induced current takes place in clockwise direction. Again it can generate one more magnetic field and this magnetic field opposes magnetic field due to magnet. Is it clear? That plate may enter the strong magnets or that plate may be leaving that magnetic field region. Anyhow, there is always opposition occurs for that oscillation. See here, once again I will explain. When metal plate enters magnetic field region, flux changes, induced EMF takes place. It is moving in anti-clockwise direction. So it is also surrounded by one more magnetic field and this magnetic field opposes magnetic field due to magnet. When opposition occurs, it dampens the oscillation. It decreases the oscillation. It opposes movement of the metal plate. Second point, when the same metal plate leaves that region, again magnetic flux linked with that plate changes, induced EMF takes place, again a current is produced, it is moving in clockwise direction so that it is again surrounded by one more magnetic field and this magnetic field opposes magnetic field due to magnet. Again opposition occurs, it dampens the oscillation, it decreases the oscillation, it opposes movement of that metal plate. Finally, what happens? Eddy currents induced in the metal plate that produces retarding force, deceleration, retarding force, decreasing force. And this decreasing force or retarding force dampens the oscillation. It decreases the oscillation. Finally, oscillations go on, decreases. Finally, the plate will come to rest. What it indicates? When that metal plate is free to swing between these two strong magnets, oscillations are always decreasing. Finally, within a fraction of a second, within a small interval of time, this metal plate will come to rest. It will not oscillating for longer time only because of opposition between magnetic field of induced EMF with magnetic field of magnet. Then, how to make that metal plate to swing for longer time? Eddy current is produced, magnetic flux changes, but it all happens only for fraction of second. Because immediately there is opposition occurs, metal plate will come to rest. If metal plate is at rest, there is no change in magnetic flux, no eddy currents. So, here instead of metal plate, we are using rectangular slots. You can observe the second picture. In the first picture, we considered metal plate. But instead of metal plate, now I am going to correct it, or we are going to consider rectangular slots. Observe this diagram. This is a rectangular slots. Again, the same procedure we can consider here. Instead of plate, just we are considering rectangular slots. Why we have to consider rectangular slots? These rectangular slots can reduce the area of the current loop. Observe both the pictures here. In the metal plate, eddy current takes place in a circular path. anti-clockwise or that may be clockwise. When we reduce the area instead of a plate, when we considered rectangular slots, area decreases. When area decreases means the current loop area also decreases. The surrounded magnetic field also decreases. Opposition also decreases so that this metal slot can swing for longer time compared to metal plate. So here the plate having rectangular slots is made to swing in the same field. It is found that this metal plate will not found to swing for longer time than this slot, because this slot reduces the area of the current loop, hence magnetic field also decreases. Therefore the plate with the slot swing for longer time. So this is all about the experiment to understand how to produce eddy currents, and this experiment carries 3 marks. You have to draw these two diagrams and explanation you can write in your own words. Yes, now you can observe practical applications of eddy currents. The damping effect of eddy currents has been put to use in the following applications. Damping effect. Here we observed in that experiment. So damping effect means that oscillation of that metal plate gone decreases. Finally, that metal plate will come to rest because of this eddy current. So these eddy currents are having many applications. We can study one by one. The first application is magnetic brake. Magnetic brake is used in electric train. To stop the electric train, we are using eddy currents. And the second application is deadbeat galvanometer. You can use moving coil galvanometer, voltmeter, ammeter. So in these devices we are using eddy currents because that dampening effect gives the accurate result. Then third application, induction furnace. Induction furnace, here these eddy current will release large amount of heat energy, and that amount of heat energy is used to melt the metals. So it is used in induction furnace. And also eddy currents are used in speedometer. Speedometer you can observe in your vehicles. In speedometer also we are using eddy currents. So these are some applications of eddy current. The first one is magnetic brake. Yes, observe here, eddy current braking is used to control speed of the train. The strong electromagnets, they are situated on the rails, are used to produce eddy current in some of the electric powered trains. When electromagnets are activated, eddy currents are produced in the rail. These eddy current opposes motion of the train. The train is thus brought to rest quickly and smoothly as there is no mechanical linkage. Is it clear? So these strong magnets are situated on the rail. Because of these electromagnet, eddy current is produced, and this eddy current opposes motion of the train, and so that the train will quickly come to rest very smoothly. So that these eddy currents are used in magnetic braking or magnetic brakes in the electric trains. And the second one is deadbeat galvanometer. So this deadbeat galvanometer, for example, when a galvanometer is used to measure the current, it must show steady deflection quickly. That needle of the galvanometer should show the proper number, proper digits. If that needle starts to deflate, if that needle is not at a constant number, then we will not get any accurate answer. So when a steady current is passed through this coil or moving coil galvanometer, deadbeat galvanometer, the coil oscillates for the short interval of time before it shows the steady deflection. Damping of these unwanted oscillation is necessary. That needle should come to rest quickly. If it shows 30 degree, that needle should be at exactly 30 degree. It should not vibrate, it should not fluctuate. So to reduce that unwanted oscillation, we are going to decrease that oscillation by using eddy currents. Observe here, moving coil galvanometer, ammeter, voltmeter. In these devices, Here they are wound over metal frame so that due to eddy current motion of these coil is damped. The process is called electromagnetic damping, but in a ballistic galvanometer means a sensitive galvanometer which is used to measure the presence of current. To reduce damping, the frames are made of a bad conductor like a paper or bamboo, or we can use a glass material. So these are the bad conductor, and these sensitive galvanometers are used to reduce the damping. This is the second application of eddy current. Then third one, induction furnace. Yes, observe here, in simple way to understand induction furnace, whatever the eddy current is produced in a heavy metallic conductor, that eddy current releases large amount of energy, and that large amount of heat energy is utilized to melt the metals. It is enough. You can observe here, the resistance of the conductor is very small, current set up in it are very strong. These current produces a lot of heat in the conductor and induction furnace, right? And it is based on the principle and is used to prepare alloys by melting the constituent metals. Since the amount of heat produced due to eddy current is directly proportional to square of its frequency, currents of high frequency are used in these furnace. Electric current with high frequency are used to melt the metals because these will produce a large amount of heat energy. This energy or this heat energy is used to melt the metals to prepare other alloys. This is induction furnace. Then last part, disadvantages of eddy current. So this eddy current is having many applications. With that, it is also having demerits or disadvantages. The first disadvantage is eddy current releases large amount of heat energy in case of transformer and dynamo. Eddy current releases large amount of heat energy. So that heat energy is utilized in induction furnace. But the same amount of heat energy that can damage the transformer or dynamo. This is disadvantage. The second disadvantage is heat produced due to eddy current that breaks the insulation in the electric machines. In electric machines, so we are going to join some machinery parts with the help of some insulations. When we join those machinery parts, eddy current is produced. That current releases large amount of heat energy. Because of that heat energy, it will break the machinery parts. So this is one disadvantage of eddy current. Is it clear? So what is eddy current? Eddy currents are also called as Foucault current. These are circulating currents produced in metal block when placed in a changing magnetic field. This is the definition. Second point is all about experiment. Metal plate, instead of metal plate, later we considered metal slot to swing for longer time. So that dampening oscillations of these eddy currents are having applications, and they are used in magnetic braking, induction furnace, speedometer, or moving coil galvanometer or deadbeat galvanometer. These are application, and disadvantage is all about large amount of heat energy. Whatever the heat energy is released because of eddy current, that can damage the machinery parts. So this is all about eddy currents.